The untold stories of Pelican Bay's deadliest inmates. The blood-stained yard. The fog that morning at Pelican Bay State Prison clung to the razor wire like a shroud, heavy and wet, muffling the sound of the guards' boots against the concrete. The yard was quiet, too quiet. For the correctional officers who had worked here long enough, silence was rarely a blessing. It was a warning. At 6:45 a.m., the alarm shattered the calm. Inmate 47219 Miguel Salazar was found collapsed on the yard, his shirt soaked through with blood. The wounds weren't random, they were surgical, for quick thrusts with a handmade shiv, each one aimed to kill. Within seconds, whistles pierced the air, guards rushed in, and the yard erupted into chaos. Men pressed against the fence, shouting and laughing, while others dropped to the ground, hands behind their heads. But Reaper was already gone. Salazar was no ordinary inmate. He had been the backbone of the Mexican Mafia's operations inside Pelican Bay, running contraband rings that stretched beyond the walls into Southern California streets. For years, he had evaded every attempt by prison authorities to pin charges on him. And now, just like that, he was dead. His empire cut off with 4 cold strikes in the middle of a foggy yard. Detective Ryan Harker of Del Norte County Sheriff's Department was one of the first outsiders brought in. Harker had seen his share of bodies, but Pelican Bay was different. "The violence here doesn't end with the victim," he once said. "Every stabbing, every killing, it's a message. You just have to know who it's for." The first question was simple. Who would dare kill the Reaper? Prison intelligence suggested only 2 possibilities: a rival within the Mexican Mafia who wanted control, or a different gang altogether sending a signal. But as the investigators pulled yard surveillance tapes, they noticed something strange. In the grainy footage, seconds before the attack, Salazar seemed to approach his killer willingly, almost like he knew him. And then, 4 flashes of movement, blood spreading across his chest, and the killer slipping effortlessly back into the crowd. By mid-morning, the body was cold, zipped into a black bag. But the echoes of the killing were just beginning. The suspects. The investigation started with 3 names. First, Hector "Ghost" Ramirez. A lifer with no family on the outside, Ghost was rumored to have been Salazar's right-hand man before tensions split them apart. Some whispered that Salazar had cut Ghost out of drug shipments last year, leaving him desperate and vengeful. Second, Leonard "Lobo" Green. A shot caller for the Aryan Brotherhood, Lobo was a towering figure with a history of orchestrating violence. Guards had caught him on the phone weeks earlier, muttering something about cutting off the snake's head. And third, Tomas Delgado, a new arrival transferred from Folsom. No one knew much about him except that he'd been moved to Pelican Bay after an unexplained incident in his previous yard. Some said he had family ties to a cartel. Others claimed he was sent to Pelican Bay with a purpose. Every lead pointed in a different direction. But Harker had learned long ago that the deadliest men didn't announce themselves. They hid in plain sight. The clues. Back in the investigation room, Salazar's prison-issued jumpsuit was laid across the table, the fabric stiff with dried blood. But tucked into the waistband, unnoticed until the second search, was a folded scrap of paper. 3 words written in smudged pencil: "The debt's paid." Harker leaned back in his chair. A prison debt could mean anything: money, protection, loyalty. But who had collected? The second clue came from Salazar's cell. Hidden inside a hollowed-out law book, officers found a ledger scribbled in code. Some names were crossed out. Next to others were numbers, amounts of money, quantities of drugs, and cryptic initials. At the bottom of the last page was a single unmarked entry: TD, final payment. Was TD a person? A gang? Or maybe Delgado, the quiet new inmate who had slipped into Pelican Bay just weeks before the killing? The shadows of Pelican Bay. As investigators pieced together Salazar's final days, a darker picture of Pelican Bay emerged. It wasn't just a prison. It was a battleground where invisible lines divided loyalties and power was measured in blood. Deals were made in whispers through cell doors, betrayals were carved with steel, and silence was the only law that kept men alive. But there was something about this killing that didn't add up. Salazar was too careful, too paranoid to walk into a trap. Unless he trusted the man who killed him. Unless it wasn't just about power but betrayal. Detective Harker pushed the ledger across the table toward the prison intelligence officer. "Look at the initials. TD. We need everything you have on Delgado." The officer hesitated. "Delgado's clean. Too clean. He doesn't run with anyone. Doesn't owe anyone. Keeps his head down. Guys like him don't last long here unless someone's protecting them. And if they're protecting him," Harker muttered, "then he's not clean." He's the dirtiest one in the room. The cliffhanger. 2 nights later, as officers prepared for a surprise cell search, alarms wailed again. This time it wasn't for a body in the yard. It was for the discovery in Salazar's old cell block. When they pulled open the steel door of an abandoned storage room, the beam of a guard's flashlight caught something scrawled on the wall in dark, crude letters. It wasn't graffiti. It was a warning. This is just the beginning. And on the concrete floor, half buried beneath a torn mattress, lay a blood-stained shiv, the exact weapon type used to kill Miguel Salazar. Only this one wasn't hidden long. It was left there to be found. Detective Harker's gut twisted. Someone inside was playing a bigger game, and Salazar's death was only the opening move. What no one knew yet, what no one was ready for, was that the next victim had already been chosen. The betrayer within. The storm came 3 days later. Not of rain or thunder, but of steel and violence. At 7:15 p.m. during evening count, a riot erupted in C Block. It started with a single shout, then an explosion of fists, shivs, and broken broom handles. Guards poured in with shields and tear gas, but the chaos had already swallowed the tear. By the time order was restored, 3 inmates were bleeding on the floor, and one was dead. Leonard Lobo Green, the Aryan Brotherhood shot caller, his throat opened with a jagged piece of metal. To the correctional officers, it looked like another prison war, a clash between gangs. But Detective Ryan Harker saw something different. 2 high-profile men dead in less than a week, both killed with surgical precision, both removed as if they were pieces on a chessboard. This wasn't chaos. It was orchestration. Someone was reshaping Pelican Bay from the inside. And all trails still led back to one man, Tomas Delgado. The Web Titans. When Harker confronted Delgado in the interrogation room, the inmate sat silent, his hands folded neatly in front of him. No twitch, no glare, no nervous sweat. Just calm, calculated silence. "You've been here a month," Harker said, sliding the blood-stained ledger across the table. 2 dead men, both tied to Salazar's operation. And here's your initials right at the bottom. Didi. You want to tell me what that means? Delgado lifted his eyes slowly. Coincidences don't make proof, detective. Maybe not. But dead men make enemies. And right now, you've got more of those than friends. Delgado leaned forward, his voice low and deliberate. Detective, if I wanted Salazar dead, I wouldn't need a code in a book. I wouldn't need to hide. Men like him die because their time runs out. That's the only truth in here. It was the kind of answer that gave nothing away, and everything at once. The missing evidence. 2 nights later, the case cracked open in a way no one expected. A guard named McAllister, who had been assigned to search Delgado's cell, was found in the staff parking lot after his shift. Face down, unconscious, his locker broken open. The only thing missing, the surveillance footage from C Block. When investigators checked the prison's master system, the files had been erased. But a fragment remained, a corrupted 5-second clip. The image was blurred, but in the chaos of the riot, a figure could be seen moving deliberately, not wildly. While others fought at random, this man walked straight to Lobo, slipped behind him, and struck once, clean and fast. The frame froze on the figure's outline, and though the face was obscured, the posture was unmistakable. It was Delgado. The hidden motive. But why? Why would Delgado, a new inmate with no clear ties, risk killing the 2 most powerful men in Pelican Bay? The answer came from the outside. A federal informant revealed that Delgado wasn't just any convict. He was rumored to be the nephew of a high-ranking cartel lieutenant. Salazar had been funneling cartel product through prison channels, but months before his death, a shipment had gone missing. Millions lost. Trust shattered. To the cartel, betrayal demanded blood. And Delgado had been sent not as an inmate, but as an executioner. Harker stared at the report, the pieces locking into place. Delgado wasn't building an empire. He was dismantling one. Salazar dead. Green dead. Rival powers eliminated, debt settled. And in the shadows, Delgado remained untouchable, protected by the very cartel that had delivered him here. The final confrontation. Determined to corner him, Harker returned to Delgado's cell one last time. "You think you're clever?" Harker said, his voice cold. "But I know why you're here. You were sent to clean house. To silence Salazar. To take down anyone who could threaten cartel business. That riot wasn't a riot, it was a stage and you were the actor." Delgado's lips curled into the faintest smile. "Detective, if you know all that, then you also know there's nothing you can do. And here, I'm already sentenced to life. What's another murder? What's another name on the list?" Harker slammed the ledger onto the steel table. The difference is proof, and I'll get it, one way or another. But Delgado's eyes held something chilling. Not fear. Not arrogance. Certainty. The twist. That night, guards responded to another alarm, this time in the infirmary. A nurse had found an envelope slipped under her office door. Inside was a single Polaroid photograph, the corrupted frame from the riot footage perfectly clear this time. Delgado's face visible, the shiv glinting in his hand. But on the back of the photo in sharp black ink were the words, "He's not working alone." The realization hit Harker like a blow. Delgado wasn't just a cartel enforcer, he was part of something larger, a network that extended far beyond Pelican Bay's walls. Someone on the inside had helped him. Someone in uniform. And then came the call. A guard's body had been found in the staff barracks, throat cut, the same surgical precision as the inmate killings. On his chest was taped another note, "The debt's not finished." The haunting ending. The next morning, Delgado's cell was found empty. The door was locked from the inside, the bed neatly made. No signs of a breakout, no tunnels, no damage. He had vanished from the most secure prison in California as if he had never been there at all. For weeks, every law enforcement agency scrambled, searching for answers. Was he dead? Escape? Smuggled out under the watch of his allies? But 3 months later, in a quiet suburb outside Los Angeles, a man was found in his car, slumped over the wheel. He had been stabbed 4 times in the chest. Inside his jacket pocket, detectives found a folded scrap of paper. 3 words. "The debt's paid." And with that, the trail went cold. Some still believe Delgado never existed, that he was a phantom used by the cartel to settle scores. Others say he's still out there, moving like a shadow, carrying out unfinished business. What's certain is this: Pelican Bay will never speak his name aloud. Because in the deadliest prison in America, silence isn't just survival, it's the only way to keep the monsters in the dark.